Good morning, everyone. I call the hearing to order on the matter of requests made by the Freiburg Fair to change the dates of their agricultural exhibitions in 2026, 2027, 2028, and 2029. My name is Nancy McBrady. I am a Deputy Commissioner here at the Department of Agriculture, Conservation, and Forestry. I have been designated by the Commissioner to be the presiding officer for today's hearing. This is a proceeding held pursuant to Title VII, Sections 82, 83, and 84, as well as Rule Chapters 11 and 12 for the Department, determining the award of dates to the applicants. This proceeding is being recorded. I know that the screen is behind me and people are online. I will do my best to remember that. We do have staff here supporting me today with the meeting logistics. So to the extent that I am not aware of hands raised and whatnot, Brooklyn or others will alert me to that fact. So today, the matter under consideration is that the Freiburg Fair has requested to change its licensed fair dates to October 3rd through the 11th, 2026. October 2nd through October 10th, 2027, September 30th through October 8th, 2028, and September 29th through October 7th, 2029. It's important at the outset to remind folks in attendance that Rule Chapter 11 factors for the consideration of this request include the following, and I'm going to summarize them briefly. A licensee's traditional agricultural fair dates, improvement of fair facilities made by the licensee, desirability of particular dates for promotion of specific ag programs, products, or ideals, demonstration of economic damage due to competition from other agricultural fairs in geographic proximity. Evidence may be offered to that effect. Demonstration of organizational difficulties due to competition from other agricultural fairs in geographic proximity operating on the same dates. Evidence may be offered to that effect. Economic benefits and costs of a particular date. And fairs which have parimutuel harness racing dates may also submit testimony on the impact of racing of those dates and other factors. So the parties to this proceeding are the department itself. Kayla Jones to my left is representing the department today. And I understand that Dave Hastings will be representing the applicant, the Freiburg Fair. According to the Administrative Procedures Act, Title V, Section 9054, persons other than the applicants may request to be considered an intervening party to the proceeding. And in order to do so, a person must make a showing that he or she may be a member of or is a member of a class that may be substantially or directly affected by the proceeding. Also, at our discretion, the department may allow other interested persons to intervene and participate as a full or limited party to this proceeding. Participating as an intervening party provides the right to present evidence and arguments on the issues presented today, as well as the right to ask questions, i.e. cross-examine other parties. Are there people here today present or online who wish to be considered an intervening party to this proceeding? I will take notice of folks who are nodding and ask you to state your name and your who you represent, and then I will make a decision whether to grant you intervener status. So ma'am, you may go first.
Elizabeth Tarantino, Secretary, Cumberland Farmers Club, Cumberland Fair.
Cool.
Do you intend to present evidence or testimony relative to some of those factors that I just mentioned?
I do.
Okay, thank you. Did I see another hand in the back? Are you also members?
We are.
Okay, and your name?
Sonia Nielsen.
What is your role?
I am a director for the Cumberland Farmers Club. I am also the superintendent of commercial exhibits for the Cumberland Fair.
Thank you, sir.
Ted Guggens, President, Cumberland Farmers Club and Cumberland Fair.
Thank you. I noticed the Cumberland as an intervening party.
Tammy Sawyer, Director and Polling Superintendent.
Okay,
Cumberland Fair.
also in the Cumberland Fair. And I'm sorry, I missed your last name.
Sawyer.
Sawyer.
Yeah, we all.
I want to just mention as well, if you're not an intervening party, we will certainly be offering public comment as a part of this hearing. Members of the public are always able to offer their opinion and insights on this matter. The difference being that the testimony will not be sworn. Yes, sir.
Dave Richardson, Assistant Livestock Superintendent, Freiburg Fair.
Other members of the Freiburg Fair group?
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
Jean Andrews, Midway Superintendent, Freiburg Fair.
Other hands raised.
We have one online.
You. Ms. Grant, I see you're muted. You may unmute and identify yourself.
I'm Jen Grant. I am a member of the Cumberland Farmers Club, and I am also represent 4-H in Cumberland County.
Thank you. All right.
There's one more.
There's another.
Ms. Gagnon, please identify yourself. Thank you.
Yes, I'm Judy Gagnon, and I'm a member of the Cumberland Farmers Club.
All right. Like I said, members of the public will have an opportunity to speak within this hearing as well. Right. Given that I have allowed members of the Cumberland Farmers Club, as well as 4-H, I will notice that they are officially recognized as an intervening party and may offer testimony to that effect. And Dave Richardson and Jean Andrews for the Freiburg Fair, you are recognized as well. Are there any objections to this proceeding at this moment? Hearing none, we will continue. I already said this, but I'll say it again. Any evidence, including testimonial and documentary evidence, that the applicant or intervening parties want to present for consideration should be introduced by the parties during the hearing when you are speaking. All parties may testify, examine, and cross-examine the witnesses if they so choose. Any party testifying today will be asked to swear an oath. I will administer the oath before you begin. For the sake of efficiency, the people that I just recognized, as well as the applicant here in the meeting physically, would you all please raise your right hand? And do you swear that the testimony you give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Thank you. And I didn't have my eyes on you, Ms. Grant and Ms. Gagnon. Can you put yourself on camera, please, Judy? Thank you.
Yeah.
And can I hear you both say, I'm sorry to make you do it again. Do you swear that the testimony you give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you both. All right, the order to the proceedings today will first begin with the department, then the applicant, third, the intervening parties, and then fourth, the public. All right, I will now begin by inviting Ms. Jones to present for the department.
Good morning. Evidence of public notice. An email was sent to all licensed agricultural fairs, the Maine Association of Agricultural Fairs, and the Maine Harness Racing Commission on January 7th, 2026. Certified postal mail to all licensed agricultural fairs was issued on January 12th of 2026. The public was notified via GovDelivery on the DACF website on January 15th of 2026. Public notice was issued in the Kennebec Journal on January 15th, 2026. The dates requested, as you have identified, the Freiburg Fair requests to extend their licensed fair dates opening a day earlier with the proposed dates of October 3rd through 11th of 2026, October 2nd through October 10th of 2027, September 30th through October 8th of 2028, and September 29th through October 7th of 2029. The department has received 14 letters, testimonies, and evidence regarding this hearing as of January 28th, 2026. This includes letters from William Webster, Hall Implements, 2 from Cumberland North Yarmouth Lions Club, Brittany Moon, William and Patricia Fisher, Tim Michelik, Jeff Michelik, George and Carolyn Small, Sonia Nielsen, Tammy Sawyer, Patricia Larrabee, Stephen and Robin Guggens, and Elizabeth Tarantino. I will give those to you at this time.
Before you sit down,
Yep.
I do not have any questions. Thank you
Oh,
for,
yes.
laying out the request that was filed. Does the applicant have any questions of Ms. Jones?
No.
Do any of the interveners have questions of Ms. Jones? Thank you. All right, I will call Dave Hastings, please.
Thank you. Seems like I should be
That would be helpful.
parting this and speaking to you,
Please, whatever makes you comfortable.
and I'll try to move over so you don't have to turn too much. Thank you. I am David Hastings. I am the president of the West Oxford Agricultural Society, which operates the Freiburg Fair. And I am going to provide you and Cumberland Fair some written testimony, which I will go over orally, and a number of exhibits, which when I present them, I'll try to pause and let you tell me how long you can look at them and then let me know if, when you're ready for me to proceed.
Thank you.
So, Freiburg Fair has petitioned the commissioner to extend its licensed fair dates for 8 days to 9, as you know. Begin on Saturday of each year rather than Sunday. We believe strongly that the facts will show that this does not cause harm to Cumberland Fair. Both are good fairs, and if possible, it would be best if they both could operate. There's no prohibition against that. Freiburg Fair has stated repeatedly that Maine fairs leave too many weekend days unused in its fair licensing process. For instance, Farmington Fair starts on a Sunday and ends on a Saturday. Cumberland Fair starts on a Sunday, ends on a Saturday. Freiburg Fair traditionally has started on a Sunday. We now end on a Sunday. Saturday traditionally brings the biggest crowds into our fairs. That's when Mainers, our citizens, are able to attend fairs on the weekends. This is a wasted opportunity for our fairs. Freiburg Fair believes this odd situation, to some extent, is a relic of the days when fairs shared the same midways. And at a time when midway operators were willing to and could overnight from one fair to the next, finish up on Saturday night in one fair and start the next fair on Sunday morning. In fact, when I began my association with the Freiburg Fair in 1976, some 50 years ago, Freiburg Fair and Cumberland Fair shared a midway operator, Billy Burr's Panorama, which at that time, I don't know how they were able to do it, but they would shut down at the conclusion of the Cumberland Fair on Saturday night and move their entire operation to Freiburg. I think at that time they were allowed to open at noontime. That was a real hard, that's a hardship, and I don't think there's any fair operator now that midway operator that would do that. In fact, at that point, in the around the late 70s or early 80s, Billy Burr told Freiburg that he couldn't do it anymore. And in fact, he chose to stay with the Cumberland Fair. And Freiburg Fair then started working with Smokey's Greatest Show, another midway operator. And at this point, I don't know of any fair that overnights its midway from one to the other. And that is, so, but I think that resulted in weekend days sitting dark. Freiburg Fair should always, if you go to the Freiburg Fair or Cumberland Fair on the Saturday morning before their opening day, you'll find, I think you'll find, I know you will at Freiburg, they're basically all set up, ready to go. So here we have a situation where the public, which is who we want to come and be educated and learn and have fun at our fair, can't do it on a Saturday to the fair that they would like to attend. This is a problem that we think should be rectified. And I think that the commission should look in favor of having as many fairs open on weekend days as possible and not sitting dark. Now, the fair hearing date on April 1st, 2025, Freiburg Fair requested its traditional 8 days. But we did announce that we intended to operate on an opening Saturday as an unlicensed day. We knew that Cumberland Fair objected to this. And that I know they testified at that time that us doing that would truly affect our attendance and our ability on that Saturday to bring any entertainment and show animals and other events. And that this would cause logistical problems and financial burdens to vendors and exhibitors. Well, we felt at Freiburg that those concerns were unfounded. But as the hearing officer or the commissioner pointed out in that decision, just any decision has to be based on fact. Well, Cumberland had no facts to show that they would be harmed. They certainly speculated that they would. Freiburg had no facts to show that they wouldn't. So what Freiburg did was the only thing they could do to establish facts, and that was to open on Saturday prior to their normally licensed day and on 2025. This has established facts now. Now, there was absolutely nothing in the statute that prevented any fair from opening other than on its licensed days. The term licensing is something of a red herring because the only thing the statute says is if you operate on a unlicensed day, you can't submit premiums for that day for reimbursement under the Fair Stipend Fund. In fact, we were first made aware that we could do this by a previous department official who pointed that out to us, and then we acted on it. We do. So the fair date decision in this past April pointed out that the goal of setting fair dates is to best benefit individual fair associations and agricultural fairs in general. We think the commissioner should be encouraging fairs to grow and expand. Purpose of our fairs is to showcase agriculture in Maine and educate fair growers in all things agricultural. It's believed that Cumberland's fair numbers for attendance and the like in 25 were at least equal to Freiburg of prior years, but Freiburg had a paid attendance that day of over 23,000. So that's 23,000 additional citizens that were able to enjoy and learn about agricultural fairs. Now I'm going to then move into some facts. in supporting our argument. First, nothing in the statute or the rules give any fair a veto power simply because they have that date now. There's nothing in there that says the preference of an overlapped fair is to be considered. And as the commissioner pointed out in the April decision, these decisions are based on the facts. Nobody can veto just because they have that day. Unless there's facts to support based on the rules, that's not a consideration. In fact, overlapping dates should be licensed absent these factual considerations. So as for the factors the rules do consider, I want to move through some of them. First, the statute talks about considerations of overlapping days where there is geographic proximity. Unfortunately, there's nothing in the rules of the statute that say what that is. Is it 10 miles? Is it 50 miles? Is it 100 miles? If you look at my first exhibit, number one is a printout of a Google Maps search, which shows that the Freiburg Fairgrounds and the Cumberland Fairgrounds are actually about 50 miles apart, an hour and 10 minutes apart. I don't consider that to be particularly proximate. It probably takes no more time than that to get from here in Augusta to Portland or Cumberland. They're very spread out. And for example, Cumberland Farmington Fair and Cumberland Fair both overlap with the Common Ground Fair, which, as my second exhibit points out, it's a printout. It just Common Ground Fair. It's a news story from the Common Ground MOFCA saying they had over 60. They had about $64,000 people attending the fair. So that's 20,000 people a day. They're a big fair. But consider this. Look at my number, exhibit 3. MOFCA, Common Ground, overlaps with the Farmington Fair. Fair in rural Maine, located per Google Maps, almost exactly the same time frame, 52 miles in an hour and 10 minutes between Farmington Fair and Common Ground Fair. So there's a precedent, a big fair and a smaller fair being allowed to operate, and they operate in well. We've had no complaints. Farmington Fair has no complaints of that. The Common Ground also overlaps Cumberland Fair. The distance is a little bit more, but I've heard no complaints of that. Now, that's geographic proximity. Oh, by the way, I want to point out too, the Windsor Fair, one of our largest fairs, without any complaint, did exactly what Freiburg wants to do. I think 2 years ago or last year, they had traditionally started on a Sunday. They recognized the benefit to the fair and the public of opening on Saturday, and were granted permission to move their opening day to Saturday. And that's that overlaps with the Piscataquis Valley Fair and Dover Foxcroft. And apparently that's gone smoothly. Nobody shown any issue with that. Now, we talk about geographic proximity, but I want to bring up a point that not directly pointed out in the rules, what about population proximity? While most fairs in Maine are in rural areas with relatively small populations, including Freiburg, Cumberland Fair sits pretty well in the middle of Cumberland County. The next exhibit I have is a map of the county. As you'll see, Cumberland Fair is located down on the coast, excuse me, well situated centrally in Cumberland County. If you look at my next exhibit, Exhibit 5, which is just a list of the populations of the various counties. Cumberland County sits pretty much in the middle of, Cumberland County has a population of over 300,000 people. Oxford County, by the way, is 60,000. This puts about 20% of the Maine population within about a 15-mile drive of the Cumberland Fairgrounds. The next exhibit, Exhibit 6, is a printout from Delorme's map book. And I've approximated the 15 mile up north and south from the Cumberland Fairground. Please, if I'm going too fast on my exhibits, please let me know.
Thank you.
Which shows that within South Portland, south of South Portland, all the way through Portland, all the way up through all the major towns of Cumberland County. So I believe the Maine population is about 1.3 or 4 million people. Certainly about 20% of them are within a short drive of Cumberland County. That's a built-in advantage that no other fair in Maine has. The ability to draw people locally. And we believe that in 2025, that proved out that Cumberland continued to draw its usual crowd on Saturday. And by the way, compare that with Cumberland, Farmington Fair, and its overlap with Common Ground Fair. And if you look at the attendance of the county populations, Farmington successfully coexists with the much larger Common Ground Fair, essentially the same distance away as Cumberland is to Freiburg, from its Franklin County population of just about 30,000 people. Both doing well, with fair-going public benefits. Now, I can tell you how Freiburg for attendance figures and gross receipts went. Freiburg had a good opening Saturday, and we had a paid attendance of about $23,000, 23,000 people, which resulted in at $15 a ticket. This is our paid of some $345,000 in gate receipts. We have not been supplied with any attendance figures for Cumberland on its closing Saturday, but by all reports that we have had, they had a strong day with solid attendance and no doubt solid gate receipts. Midway profits. Freiburg's Midway operator, the ride operator, and I believe our vendors did well on the opening Saturday. We are unaware of Cumberland's ride operator results directly, but it was reported to us by the son of Betty Gillette, who operates Gillette Shows, that she had a good day and her receipts are up over the prior year.
Is this person that you're talking about here today?
No, this person is the son of it's Artie Gillette, who his mother, he operates at both fairs. By the way, he brought 8 booths to Freiburg after the close of Cumberland. that's how I happened to talk to him. He was allowed, with no problems he has for several years, to work the entire Cumberland Fair and then afterwards move in late to Freiburg, I think sometime on Sunday. He's, I think, the only person we know that actually make that move. But my understanding, that's the only information I have. I have not been supplied with any, I don't have any direct numbers from Cumberland. They'll have to tell you. So Freiburg had a good day. Cumberland had a good day, we believe. That's the benefit to the public, to our vendors, to the local economy. Both fairs. Why shouldn't they be open if that's what happens, if they both do well? Vendors. Oh, difficulty scheduling events and shows. I don't know of any we certainly had no difficulty, and I don't know that Cumberland had any difficulty. That hasn't been explained to us. Vendors. Now, Cumberland Fair officials made statements on television and the newspapers that their vendors were forced to choose between Cumberland and Freiburg, and that they had lost over a dozen vendors to Freiburg, but were able to replace them. Freiburg Fair has requested on 2 occasions. We don't think that's, we don't believe you'll hear from somebody from our Midway department. We're not aware of anyone that left Cumberland because of our change to come to Freiburg. Exhibits, next 2 exhibits, one is back in September when we saw that on the news. I had emailed Mr. Googans and asked if they would give us a list of these dozen or more vendors that chose Freiburg over Cumberland, because we couldn't locate them. We didn't know who they were, and I've never heard from that. Back then again in November, I wrote him a letter again asking the same question. And you see, I asked him, we felt that the 2 fairs both coexisted well together, that there were no issues. And I asked them if they could give us that list again, which we have not received, or if they had any other issues, and we received no response from that. As far as vendors go, you'll hear directly from our Midway department, which deals with our vendors. But from a practical point of view, there really is no way for, even under the existing regime of Freiburg opening on Sunday, for vendors to play both fairs. It's very difficult. The Freiburg Midway, is probably the same as Cumberland, by early Saturday is entirely set up. You can't come in, you have to come in the middle of the night. There's no, Midway vendors don't overnight like the rides used to. I don't think they do either. We may have a couple of vendors that have booths at both places and manage them, but we do not have, under the old regime of us opening on Sunday, we do not have vendors coming in the middle of the night. If you walk the Midway at Freiburg on Saturday afternoon while Cumberland's going strong, it's fully set up. The rides are up, the vendors are in place. They all wish they could open. We have several thousands of people wandering the Midway, can't do anything, but they're there because we don't lock the gate. But why not? What's wrong with, why shouldn't they be open? It benefits everybody. So the only, I know that there are the Hardy Gillette vendors, food booths that come to Freiburg after, but they complete the run of the Cumberland Fair and only move over afterwards. We made that clear to any vendors if they wanted to do both fairs, they were perfectly willing to have them come in late, but it's logistically very difficult. Virtually all of our vendors have always been in place Saturday morning. Livestock. At the 2025 hearing in April, a number of individuals indicated that allowing Freiburg to open on Saturday would create problems for livestock exhibitors who show at both fairs. And this didn't come about. The next exhibit is a letter, and you'll hear more about this from our livestock superintendent. And I'd like you to read this through. This was delivered during at the end of the 2024 fair to all exhibitors, all of our livestock exhibitors, and it applied to, and it told all of them that when you move in, it's not going to be it's not any punishment or any deciding factor. Even those not appearing at Cumberland or Deerfield, we have several fairs that move in late. We weren't demanding that anybody had to be in place by Saturday. We made accommodations to everybody. We will make accommodations for livestock exhibitors who move in on Saturday so they can safely get their animals to their barns. As always, we will assign stall space, tacking space, and camper space in advance of the fair, just based on your applications we always have. Mr. Richardson, our livestock superintendent, will tell you how that went. But the bottom line is, livestock exhibitors from Cumberland have always moved in Saturday night after Freiburg closed. So absolutely nothing changed for them. And it went quite smoothly. There had been concerns about the traffic moving in. That was about the only difference it would be, that we were open that day. But you know what? By Saturday evening, the traffic is going out. Coming into Freiburg Fair is very simple. We have traffic problems at times, but not at the end of the day for people coming into the fairgrounds. We have heard that Cumberland Fair felt they had to release their livestock people early on Saturday because of traffic concerns, I guess. That was not requested by the fair, and actually, the later they get released, the better, because the traffic is down. Economic benefits and costs of a particular day. You know, if both fairs can run successfully on the same date, that's a win-win for the fairs, for the state, for our vendors, for the public. Freiburg Fair attracted over 23,000 fairgoers on that Saturday. In addition to providing an agricultural experience to more people than we can when they can come on the weekend, Freiburg Fair is a very large economic engine in rural Western Maine. Your next exhibit is Exhibit 10. It's a little bit longer, but in 2016, I believe, 2016, Freiburg Fair actually commissioned an economic impact study through the University of Southern Maine. And about I think it would be the third page of this exhibit, there is a chart showing that the total economic impact at that time of the fair was over $21 million. Now, this is in rural Maine. Not a lot of industry, not a lot of business. That's a huge benefit and impact to this part of the state, a rural part of the state whose economy struggles. Next, and the next exhibit is the Maine Association of Agricultural Fairs commissioned high-level economic impact study for all the fairs. Probably not done as much detail as the one we had done, where over 1,000 people were interviewed. But their high-level estimate for the Freiburg Fair was $57 million. Once again, my point is that these fairs not only teach agriculture, but they are huge economic engines, especially in rural Maine. Freiburg is not Cumberland County. It has does not have a lot of business or industry. This kind of economic boost to our area is huge and should be encouraged. And that Saturday is very important. It's not just what Freiburg gets, what we make out of it, but all the vendors. They're very happy with this. And it's a boost to they're small businessmen, and it's a boost to them. I think that the state should be very careful about, Commissioner, about preventing these kind of economic engines from operating. Should be encouraged. And if they can be done well, like I think you'll find that this has been done, that this should be something that the commissioner should welcome. And award Freiburg those days, which I think now with the facts shown are warranted. And the mere fact that another fair objects is not something we could consider. I think that's what we ran up against before, because nobody could prove anything. Nobody had any facts. We're just speculating. Now let's see what the facts show. That's my testimony. Do you have any questions for me?
Do you happen to know your average weekly attendance for your licensed fair dates, weekday versus weekend?
Okay. Actually, I think I can show you.
Okay.
I can tell you if I can have a minute here. Okay, well, in 2024, 2025, we had 23,000 on the opening Saturday, 20,000 on Sunday. Then again, the following Saturday, we had 30,000, which is actually a lower number than before. And then I think our last day was 18,000. I'll go to our midweek. Monday is a big day at the fair because of our Whitman's Field Day. That was 18,000 people. Tuesday is 9,400. Wednesday is 15,000. Thursday is 14,000. Friday was 21,000. Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday tend to be slow days for us. I think for almost any fair that operates during the midweek. One of the huge benefits to this, Freiburg has always been known for having terrible traffic problems. When we have a big day, when we attract, historically on our Saturday, when it doesn't rain, we might have 35 or 36,000 people paid attendance. The traffic lines extend for miles sometimes. And we know that's a real negative that we can't do much about because we got one road in and one road out. This year, our total attendance did not go up dramatically, but we never had the massive traffic jams that we had other years. We found if we can get to the mid 20,000s, we can handle that traffic reasonably well. As soon as we hit 25, 30,000 or more, it becomes a real problem. So I know we probably discourage people from coming to Freiburg because of traffic on the weekends. I think we can now show that, that would work. One thing I think we showed today, where we get our attendance is we draw substantially from a different group of people than Cumberland does. Once again, Cumberland sits in the middle of that very large population base. Freiburg, however, Freiburg draws from a much different crowd. We draw substantially from New Hampshire. We're right on the New Hampshire border. North Carolina, New Hampshire is full of leaf peepers that week that come over to Freiburg. We have 3,000 RV campsites, which are full. They're there for the week, and that's a big part of our attendance. So we draw some from Cumberland County, but our base, we draw from a much wider net. Now, here we go. First, let's say Freiburg Fair is convinced that Cumberland Fair will continue to prosper if Freiburg is awarded this day. Cumberland is an excellent fair, well-run, well-promoted, and provides a great agricultural fair experience. Second, 2025, I think, will show that Freiburg and Cumberland draw from different groups substantially. I mean, there's overlap. Freiburg draws extensively from rural Western Maine, nearby New Hampshire, and even Massachusetts, as well as from its nearly 3,000 RV sites, which are pretty much occupied for the week. Cumberland sits practically in the middle of the most populated county area and also well-off demographic area in Maine, located within a very short drive, giving it the benefit of a built-in audience that our rural fairs don't have. Freiburg Fair hopes the commission will recognize the lack of harm to Freiburg and the benefit to Freiburg Fair and agricultural fairs in general, and the public in general too, to allow Freiburg to take advantage of an unused weekend day going forward. Thank you.
I just have one further question, and I just want to make sure that I'm fully understanding it. You've mentioned your point about fairs sitting dark, so Midway and vendors would be set up, ready to go, but for being licensed for that date. You then mentioned that it's the Saturday last year, you had 23,000 attendees and $345,000 in gate receipts. Is that because the Midway was running that date?
Yes, we never
Sure.
opened without the Midway
Right.
running.
Just wanted to connect those dots fully.
We don't.
Thank you.
Yeah, okay.
I do not have further questions before I call other members of your group. Are there any questions from the other interveners at this time? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Who will be coming up next?
Morning, Dave Richardson. Yeah. In the spring of 2024, when the trustee at Freiburg Fair decided they would like to start the fair a day early, the livestock department at Freiburg wanted to work with all the exhibitors to let them know that we would work with them to kind of mitigate any of the misconceptions and thoughts they had of having to be there early, as that was exhibited in Exhibit 9 that Mr. Hastings had shown. Traditionally and historically, Freiburg Fair has exhibitors coming in from Deerfield Fair on Sunday, Keystone Exhibition as well on Sunday when it's in session, and the World Dairy Expo. They at the same time as the Freiburg Fair. And so we've always worked with those livestock exhibitors to make sure they have accommodations and so they can get onto the fairground as well. And that's what we wanted the folks from Cumberland Fair to know. the exhibitors that it would be status quo for them, basically. They would come in during the week prior to the fair, which they did this year, and set up their tack space in their stalls, bringing their campers in many times, or they'd come in the weekend before and set up their stalls. And they did that this year. We wanted them to know that they did not have to be at the fair on the Friday before. So the Saturday evening, as they've always done when they are released from Cumberland at 5 o'clock or so, they would drive to Freiburg. And so by 6:30, 7 o'clock, their stock trailers would be coming onto the fairgrounds. Our security personnel would make sure that stock trailers always have the first option to get onto the fairgrounds with traffic. And by that time in the evening, 6:30, the pedestrian traffic in the livestock area has slowed down a lot, so it's easier for the folks to get onto the fairgrounds. We do have a fair number of exhibitors coming in from Cumberland. The total, the big three, I call it the beef, sheep, and dairy, is almost 1,065 animals. Of that, 185 are coming in from Cumberland. 60 beef, 400 sheep, 25 dairy. So we want to work with those exhibitors, some that are here today, and to make sure that they're comfortable getting onto the fairgrounds and that there's no risk. And so for the folks coming from Cumberland, it was just like it was for the past 15 to 20 years, status quo. Come in on Saturday after Cumberland Fair, you're coming in, we're going to welcome you in, no repercussions. Other than that, I guess that was the big part of the livestock portion, just to make sure that the exhibitors knew coming in from Cumberland that nothing was changing on their part. That's why we provided the letter, Exhibit 9, to the exhibitors. And they would, we just don't want to have any impact. And from what I learned from talking or speaking with the other superintendents, the exhibitors that came in from Cumberland was able to get onto the fairgrounds in an efficient manner. There was no issues. They unloaded their cattle, and that's a key when you're traveling with cattle and exhibitors to be stress-free. Animals pick up on stress. If their owners are stressed, the animal's going to be stressed. And after an hour and a half of trucking, you don't need a stressed animal. So that's our key as well, to make sure the animals can get onto the fairgrounds unloaded in a stress-free environment. And, so we appreciate the exhibitors that come in from other fairs. And so that basically, in a nutshell, that was our intent for the livestock department at Freiburg Fair, to make sure that the folks from Cumberland had an easy entry to the fair, and nothing has changed from previous years.
Thank you for mentioning that last point. Just wanted to make sure, because you threw out a couple numbers that I might have heard correctly.
Yes.
You said that, I think 185 or so of the.
Yeah, that's correct. Of the
Yep.
big three, the beef, sheep, and dairy. So 185
Yep.
animals
Did come last year.
from Cumberland, about
Yep.
17% of the 1,065 total animals at Freiburg Fair for those three. We have almost 3,000, but those are the three big commodities that, bigger trailers, larger herds, larger animals.
You're generally asserting that sort of 17% is on par with prior years before 2025.
Yes, as far as the exhibitors, there were basically no changes from the exhibitors from 2024 to 2025. The same exhibitors that exhibited at Freiburg Fair in 2024 were there in 2025. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. I don't have further questions to folks from the Cumberland. No.
All right, thank you.
And I think last from the applicant will be Andrews.
Good morning. Thank you, Commissioner Beal and staff, for allowing me this opportunity to speak in support of Freiburg Fair's bid to extend the licensed fair date. 2025, I'm sorry, my name is Jean Andrews and I live in Freiburg. 2025 is my 30th year as a vendor with Freiburg Fair. We started a coffee and bagel booth in order for us to make money to support our wedding. And little did I know, over the last 30 years, it would evolve into the business that it is today. One that has offered us many opportunities, as well as the opportunity for our children to step into a role of entrepreneurship. For almost 20 years, I have been a superintendent working out of the Midway office at Freiburg Fair, concentrating on inside vendor sales. This is an easy transformation for me because I came from the trade show and event industry. That, along with my experience as a vendor, gives me a unique perspective to what is needed to be successful at a Maine fair. I understand the obstacles and the risks involved with putting all your eggs in one basket and hope that Mother Nature cooperates with clear skies. The financial and time commitment it takes to gather or create inventory in hopes of seeing a return on your investment, only to have that dream crushed by things out of your control, like weather or pandemic. It is a risky business. As superintendent for Inside Space, many of my vendors are local independent businesses or craftsmen who depend on fairs to earn their living. For years, vendors have asked why we don't open on the Saturday prior to the fair, as most are already set up and eager to earn that living. With a limited number of fair dates in Maine, these vendors need every opportunity they can grasp in order to be successful and support their families. My job requires me to cater to two audiences, the vendors and our fair guests. They go hand in hand. If you have exceptional vendors, guests will attend your event to shop, enjoy the food offerings, and let's face it, spend their money and have fun. Guests who are having a good time and spending their money make for happy vendors. So my job is easier when our vendors are happy. Unfortunately, everyone can't be happy all the time, and vendor turnover is par for the course. Looking back 3 years, Freiburg Fair experiences an average of 40 to 50 cancellations a year. This is just on the independent Midway, which averages about 370 vendors, and does not include the carnival. Filling last-minute cancellations isn't enjoyable or something we look forward to, but without the vendor turnover, fairs get stale and predictable, and that's something our audience does not want. When a vendor drops out for any reason, they went out of business, they retired, they took on a new job, unfortunately illness or death, or maybe they decided to try the Big E. We lose quite a few vendors to Big E and other fairs. It is an opportunity for us to bring in something new without having to be the bad guy and not offer a contract. My understanding through statements from Cumberland Secretary and the Commercial Exhibit Superintendent is that anywhere between 12 and 18 of their 47 vendors were lost to Freiburg alone. These reports came out last summer through local news stations and interviews with fair officials. President Dave Hastings has said and reiterated today that we asked vendors participating in Freiburg and Cumberland, and there were just a few, to come late to Freiburg. He went on to say vendors and exhibitors do not have to pick and choose between our two fairs. In an attempt to show goodwill, as he stated, he requested a list from Cumberland, which was never offered, and our request was never returned. Instead, claims were publicly made and settled on 12 vendors being lost to Freiburg, which have never been substantiated. I have 3 vendors that I know of who participate in both fairs and have for years. And because they are capable of having duplicate booths and staffing, they did both. Reports state that these 12 vendors make up about 30% of Cumberland's revenue. According to the website, inside rates sold at $450 per 10-foot space and outside started at $500. Ticket prices are advertised as $15 each. So I struggle to understand the economics of how the loss of 12 vendors equates to 30% of their revenue, and I feel the negative rhetoric directed at Freiburg is fueled by emotion and not fact. As Mr. Hastings explained earlier, the rules and procedure when awarding fair dates includes demonstrated of economic damage due to competition from other agricultural fairs in geographic proximity on the same dates. I know the commission will base the decision to award Freiburg the extended fair dates on fact and not emotion. I also want to say that at fairs, and we all feel this, if you have rainy days, that is your biggest obstacle. And last year, I believe Cumberland did experience some rainy days. Mr. Hastings spoke to our attendance. Our attendance, the numbers that he gave you do not include Tuesday being Senior Citizens Day, which are free, and children under 12. So those midweek dates would be a little bit elevated than they were. A lot of my vendors are small shops. Some of them have full-time jobs. Some of them inherited the business from a family. They're small local people. And I don't think we share a lot of the same vendors with Cumberland. But to not have that additional Saturday to complete their weekend doesn't make sense. They have limited opportunity to make their living, and by not allowing them to open on Saturday, and as Mr. Hastings said, they're already set up. Now they're already set up Friday morning and ready to go. But Saturday is a day and an opportunity for them. They're off from work. Our visitors are off from work. It's an opportunity for them to earn income. We also have 40 nonprofits that participate in our fair. And as you know, it's getting harder and harder for nonprofits to get volunteers. Saturdays, Sundays are easy days for them to staff their booths. It's the opportunity for them to earn money to support their mission, their organization. They too have been asking for the additional day. So I don't understand how, I can see how they would feel that perhaps us opening on Saturday hurt them, but until we see facts or see the duplication in vendors, we can't prove anything. So we do hope that you'll vote to extend the day.
Just want to draw a line under something that I think I heard you say, which is in your experience and role at the fair, you are aware of 3 vendors that are basically in attendance at both fairs.
I do Inside Space. I'm aware of 3 of my vendors. I am aware of one other vendor because I was doing some research last night and I saw a news clip from a reporter who went out to both fairs on that Saturday in question, looking for these 12 vendors whom he stated he was unable to find. But he did interview a vendor who is a caricaturist. His daughter is a caricaturist. I think his name is Mr. Smith, who does both. And he had said that they had opted to stay with Cumberland on this Saturday and take the exempt day from Freiburg. So there was another one that I was unaware of until I saw that last night. So there could be others, but if it's not made known to us, we don't know.
Thank you for explaining the Inside Space vendor organization. Is there a similar position at the Freiburg Fair managing external vendors?
There are 3 superintendents in the Midway office. One is Independent Midway, which handles most of the food and straight sales outside. Myself that handles Inside Space. And then we have another gentleman who takes care of just commercial space, which are tractors, RVs, some of the larger commercial vendors. Yep.
And is the Freiburg Fair able to provide any statistics about the number of vendors in those other 2 categories that you just mentioned?
Well, altogether, collectively as a group, we have about 370 vendors every year. That number obviously fluctuates. Yep.
Thank you. Are there any questions by the Cumberland Farmers Club? Thank you.
Thank you. Would you like me to leave you with this?
You?
Sure.
I will notice that the written materials provided by the witnesses for Freiburg Fair are officially recognized into the record. Thank you to those 3 individuals. I am now going to turn to the intervening parties. First, recognizing those from the room. And I'm just going to go in order of how I recognize you this morning. Please advise if it works for you. Ms. Tarantino, would you like to go? Yes, thank you.
Morning, and thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to speak. My name is Elizabeth Tarantino, and I am the Secretary of the Cumberland Farmers Club and Cumberland Fair. I am here to formally oppose the Freiburg Fair's request to extend its dates and open early. In my role, I'm very familiar with Freiburg Fair's actions in 2025 when it bypassed the fair date approval process and opened early without authorization. Those actions caused direct, measurable harm to Cumberland Fair. Today, I'm going to focus on attendance and financial impacts. Other members of my team will address broader issues. I did submit by email a full breakdown of our Saturday attendance and gate receipts dating back to 2018. I can provide you with a copy of that if you don't have that available. Oh, you do?
I would give your copy to the.
I can certainly do that. So that's a full breakdown of our Saturday attendance and gate receipts dating back to 2018. And the data shows a clear trend. From 2021 to 2024, Cumberland Fair experienced consistent year-over-year growth, averaging a 17.5% increase in paid attendance year over year. This is a clear and reliable growth trend. And then in 2025, the trend abruptly reversed. On Saturday, September 27th, 2025, we experienced a loss of 800 paid adult attendees. At $15 per ticket, that represents a $12,000 loss in gate revenue on that single day. Attendance that Saturday was lower than both 2024 and 2023, despite an almost 5% increase from 2023 to 2024. If we apply a conservative expectation of just 5% year-over-year growth, the 7.7% decline in 2025 actually represents a 12 to 13% swing in attendance in the wrong direction. Now, obviously, 12,000 certainly doesn't compare to 300,000 in attendance at Freiburg. Freiburg is the only fair that makes that kind of money in attendance, that has those numbers. Overall, for the 2025 fair, we were down approximately 37,000 in gate receipts alone. While weather affected some days, continued growth on our licensed Saturday would have helped offset those losses. Instead, Freiburg Fair's early opening directly impacted our strongest revenue day. In addition, we saw declines in both paid adult and free youth attendance, which affected not only Cumberland Fair, but also our vendors and local nonprofit organizations that rely on the fair for critical fundraising. You do have submitted 2 letters from the Lions Club, which operates a large booth at the Cumberland Fair, which also showed a decline on Saturday in their income year over year. These losses also had a negative impact on the overall economic benefit the fair brings to our community. So in closing, approving an early opening now would not correct the harms that we experienced in 2025. It would reward noncompliance and undermine the fair date approval process designed to protect all of Maine's agricultural fairs. For these reasons, and based on the documented impacts I've outlined today, I respectfully urge you to deny Freiburg Fair's request and uphold the integrity of the process. I thank you for your time and for your consideration.
Thank you for these statistics. Can I note that there is a weather column here? Can you talk a little bit more about the weather? It's not clear to me what they intended to convey because it doesn't have any information.
Well, we always track what the weather is on each day. So if there is a rain date, we'll in our weather column, we'll note that it rained. For example, in 2025, we lost half of Tuesday, which is the Senior Citizens Day, to rain. And unfortunately, it rained in the evening. So that is primarily the time when people do come in that are paying full price attendance. And then we lost Thursday, which was a huge loss. We lost the entirety of Thursday. which is a very popular, highly attended day for Cumberland, because we do have the rodeo, or it was scheduled on Thursday of last year.
And that Saturday, was it also raining?
No, it was beautiful.
I do not have further questions. Are there questions from the harbor? Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Ms. Nielsen?
Ma'am, one question, other letters have been submitted, but I've never seen them. Do we have those there?
Do have them.
And I can make more copies.
Yep.
Thank you.
Just for those curious, these were what Kayla mentioned earlier had been submitted as were allowed due to the public notice of this hearing. So these were submitted to the department.
Hi, good morning. I'm Sonia Nielsen with the Cumberland Fair, and I handle the commercial exhibits, which include the food trucks, the nonprofit groups, the craftsmen, business promotion folks, all businesses. I'm not going to go over the whole, sharing of vendors and going back and forth. Miss Andrews was right. There, vendors come, vendors go. We do share a lot of vendors. But I want to talk about the things that nobody else is talking about, which is the behind the scene logistics, the supply chain issues that we ran into that we did not anticipate. The schedule overlap affected the vendor participation with multiple commercial vendors and food vendors reporting to us that they felt like they needed to choose. Whether they did or not is on them, but they reported to us. They needed to divide their staffing, divide their inventory, equipment, et cetera, between the 2 days. As a result, many of the vendors reduced their operational footprint at Cumberland, while others were unable to participate at full capacity. Vendors further voluntarily reported to us that the gross sales on Saturday were down. They attributed this to the decreased attendance, but also to staffing shortages, inventory constraints, and limited resupply capacity that we had run into earlier in the week. The concurrent obligations between Cumberland and Freiburg caused many of our suppliers to come to us and say, we can't restock your vendors. I will name Pepsi, Dennis Paper, and Preferred Food were our 3 big suppliers that said, we cannot restock your vendors. Our vendors typically need to be restocked on Thursday to get them through our weekend. When our suppliers can't come in to restock those food trucks, that's a problem. The food trucks, can no longer, if they don't have their supplies, they can't offer their favorite food offerings to fair folks who are already, kind of weird about everything anyway this year because they didn't want to feel like they had to choose between Cumberland and Freiburg. The other thing that ended up having to happen was we ended up spending hours and hours and hours of negotiation with these folks, trying to figure out a way to get everybody stocked in time, ready to keep everything going. I'm sorry, am I interrupting you?
No, you're fine. I'm sorry. I was getting more copies.
Oh, okay, thank you. Sorry.
No, you're good. I apologize.
So all that extra administrative cost that Cumberland Fair was a burden to us, all that extra time. We ended up having to work out with everybody that all the food trucks needed to bring in extra stock trailers. We don't have a large fairgrounds. We needed to put those somewhere. So we had to place them because of their electrical needs in our campground. So then we're displacing campers. So now we're losing revenue from the campground, but we're also losing revenue because the stock trailers are replacing campers, which had families. So now we lose the attendance from that as well. It just, the inventory shortfalls, the crafters, Jean touched on it a little bit. These folks had to, double their capacity to be open in 2 places. They had to have extra staffing, hire extra people to run at Cumberland on Saturday and Freiburg on Saturday. All of that greatly impacts these small businesses. They don't have a lot of operating funds. And, these are real people trying to support their families. These are the things that nobody thinks about. They talk about like, oh, the overlapping, the overnighting, or the whatever, back and forth between the vendors. There's so much more to it than that. I had to bring in extra crew early to try to accommodate vendors to come in early so that we could get them stocked early. That all has an impact on our bottom line as well. It's not just about the gates receipts, or the amount of exhibitors. It's the whole capacity that nobody is looking at, those behind the scenes numbers. It doesn't need to be. And every argument that they have for why they should be open on Saturday, we can twist that around as to why they should not be open. Because they want to have all the sales for their vendors on Saturday. Well, so do we. So do we. And, we're 50 miles away, split the difference. People are coming from 25 miles. They can go to either way. Why should we suffer and not have those sales on Saturday so that they can, or their vendors can? We did lose vendors to Freiburg. I do have a list. I am not going to share that publicly because the vendors don't want us to. They're afraid of retribution, is what they're reporting to me. We also do share vendors at overnight, mostly crafters, business expos, that sort of thing. They go to Freiburg. They've sorted out those logistics. They did not pull out of Cumberland early. I don't allow it. I'm not going to have empty spaces on my Saturday. So I don't know where all that kind of information is coming from with the media, where they're getting all of that. But we did replace. We had 109 vendors this year. One of the best years we've ever had because we did put extra effort in to replace those that we lost. But when we're looking at, I don't know what's going to happen this year. If Freiburg is able to allowed to be open on Saturday, we're going to have the same supply issues again. And the companies that we're working with who supply their food trucks, my food trucks, everybody else's food trucks are already saying, we don't know if we can handle both fairs at the same time.
Thank you for that. When were you being alerted to the supply concern?
So Pepsi was the first one to contact me, and that was in about beginning of June. And they contacted me and said, we can't supply Cumberland Fair this year. And I said, whoa, slow down, what's going on? And so I met with them. I met with them several times. And what they had said to me was that because Freiburg is so large, they needed to start bringing in their coolers and their inventory for their food trucks and booths and things early, which is during our week. They did not have the manpower or the capacity, the equipment to do both. So we talked it over. I said, well, bring your stuff to my fair early. We'll have it here early, which meant that I had to have staff on site earlier than usual. And we worked it out, and they ended up having to overstock my people on the front end of that fair. Now, not all of my food trucks go to Freiburg or go to many big events after Cumberland. They were stuck with that inventory that they didn't sell. But we had to overstock everything because Pepsi couldn't come back during midweek like they normally do. And that sort of started everything.
So you mentioned you had 109 vendors in total,
Mhm.
and that's food as well as
Food, profits, the crafters, the political groups, the commercial exhibits, tractors, things like that, the small business promotional.
you've also said it was one of your best years of vendors.
We had more vendors than we ever had. And I think that a lot of them I think they felt bad for us. We put a lot of extra hours in trying to fill those spaces. Now and what I'm saying to you, we had 10 specific vendors that specifically said, we're not going to do Cumberland because we're choosing Freiburg. That does not mean that we did not lose other vendors. There were 10 that I can name that specifically cited Freiburg. There were others that didn't specifically say that they're choosing Freiburg, but that we lost. And we know that they went to Freiburg. So
And so generally speaking, what is the capacity for the most vendors physically on site that you'd be able to have?
well, I mean, it all depends. I mean, this year we were able to have some number-wise more vendors because some of them had to shrink their spaces because they had to send, another setup to Freiburg for that Saturday.
109 vendors, 10 that are not part of that
Mhm.
tally because they chose to go to.
Correct.
All right. I don't have any further questions. Do folks from Freiburg have any questions?
Yeah. Excuse me?
Sorry, did you have questions?
Yes, so you've heard that we can't identify any of these 12 or more vendors. We're not told who they are. I would hope that you could give no real weight to that if they're not willing to identify. No one has ever suggested there was any vindictiveness or any punishment for anybody because of this.
This is reserved for questions.
Okay,
of the
well,
witness.
okay,
I
one other,
understand.
so Pepsi is your soft drink supplier. Do you use PNG for
PFG.
food?
Yes.
PFG?
Excuse me, losing my voice.
Okay.
Yes, PFG, Dennis Paper. There's a bunch of other ones. Those were the three big ones that we had to actually sit down, call a meeting.
Who's the third, excuse me, the third one is
Dennis Paper.
Dennis Paper, they're not one of our purveyors.
they don't even come to Freiburg then, do they?
Well, they
No.
obviously do because,
No, they're not one of our purveyors. They're not allowed on grounds.
okay.
If they do any business, it's outside of our
And
grounds.
maybe it's with Midway, I don't know. I don't
No.
get into any of
We
it.
only
I
have-
don't know. That I'm not gonna argue about, but those were our three biggest that we had to sit down and negotiate with.
And
Yeah.
that purveyor, you're saying, was because of Freiburg? Even
Yeah.
though they don't come to Freiburg?
Yes, they all came to us and said, we can't service you because of this overlap. We don't have the staffing. We don't have the trucks. We don't have the whatever capacity to serve two large fairs at the same time.
Well, that one doesn't even come to Freiburg.
Well, I don't know what to tell you. I'm not down there monitoring your suppliers. That's not my job. I'm telling you that these are the three that came to me. In addition, we had like other stuff, propane and whatever, but that, we worked that out. These are like specific food items that needed to go onto these food trucks.
I guess if I have other evidence on that, when would you like me to raise that?
You can certainly make some closing statements. I'm recognizing that there are other people who have not been physically identified as interveners. If you have further questions, why don't we, I see that you have a question. Okay, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Sorry. So originally through sound bites that I obtained online and reporting, they had said originally between 12 and 18 vendors were lost. You're now settling on 10, is that correct?
No, ma'am. No. We had 10 vendors specific came and said, we feel like we need to choose Freiburg over Cumberland because of the revenue that we make at Freiburg. Okay? So there were 10 specific.
So 10 vendors that left you and came to us,
That
but you're,
specifically cited that overlap day and the need that they felt they needed to choose.
and you're still unwilling to provide those numbers so we can substantiate that.
I have a list of names here. Absolutely. The vendors don't want me to provide that to you. If the commission wanted it, I would give that to them. Of course, we have it, but we lost other vendors as well, but they did not specifically say, because we feel like we need to choose, but we had 10.
So in these articles and sound bites that played on TV, with the loss of those vendors, it was said that that was 30% of your revenue. Is that a correct statement?
Yes.
30% of your overall revenue or 30% of your vendor revenue?
our vendor revenue.
So 11% of vendors that did not return make up 30% of your revenue.
Yes, some of these were large vendors.
If we can get those names, that would be helpful. So everything that was in these articles that were written was accurate.
As far as I know, I haven't seen all the articles. I was not the one who was on.
Okay, because it did say that you had 47 vendors, but it's now 109.
I spoke with somebody at whichever station early in the spring.
WGME, yep.
No, I mean, perhaps. And at that time, those numbers were accurate. Yes.
So at that time, you had 47 vendors and it increased to 109. That's pretty good.
No, it's typical. But at that time, when I spoke with him, those were the accurate numbers. That was in the spring. And we worked through and we booked all our spaces. You know as well as I do that your spaces are not booked fully as of today. It's
No, we
fluctual.
haven't even started.
We already have. But what I'm saying is, what I have booked in March, June is not what I'm going to have ultimately at the end of September.
My point is the rhetoric and on TV saying that
It's not
you are
rhetoric.
12 of 47 vendors.
I'm not going to allow
Okay,
Jason
sorry.
this directly questions relative to your testimony.
At that time, when that was said, those numbers were accurate.
Right. Any further questions for this witness?
I did just have one. Am I allowed?
Can you confirm with your
Okay.
public statement at the public comment time?
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, wait.
You can.
Yeah, we have that. I should have that on his phone too.
Okay, great.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Where am I on this? Mr. Guggens, I believe you were next.
She's got me and.
My name is Ted Guggens. I'm president of Cumberland Farms Club. I just want to touch on some things, in our camping area. You've heard testimony from some of my people about the effects of Freiburg Fair. And I just want to say that I request that you deny the request for the Saturday of our fair to add the date. I reached out to our camping department and, they said that their camping was down. He said that camping was down and due to, I believe it's the Thursday, campers have to be in Freiburg on Thursday. That some campers left earlier than usual during the fair. I can have them get numbers out. I just reached out to him. And he said, so it did affect, we were down in the camping department, so revenue was down in our camping area. Due to shorter stays, some people come in from out of state and go to Freiburg, they go to both fairs, they left earlier, be there on the Saturday. So that is one thing I wanted to mention. The other thing I want to touch base on is events for our Saturday. Saturday has always been a very difficult day due to Freiburg because of the transition of animals to Freiburg was Sunday. When I was showing animals, it was an 8 o'clock release at night. It went from 8 to 7, went from 7 to 6. Now it's 5. So now when you come in on Midway at 5 o'clock, cattle trucks have to come in and pick up the animals. We have to cordon off a 60-foot section. We have a 10-foot section. You have people coming and going in a 10-foot area in front of vendors so that the livestock can get out. A lot of the livestock people said, if you do not release this earlier, we won't come to Cumberland Fair. It's too much of a hassle getting into Freiburg late at night, and we don't want to be caught in traffic the next morning. This has been part of how Freiburg affects Cumberland for years, and we've just dealt with it. People, I understand people I showed at Freiburg, one of my favorite fairs. When it comes to animals and pulling, it's a big transition. from Cumberland to Freiburg, and everybody just wants to get to Freiburg. It's just the way it is. I understand Freiburg's reaching out to people, trying to get them to hold back. But if a person has the opportunity to leave and go to Freiburg, they're gonna go. So if you come to Cumberland Fair and walk behind our polling area on Saturday morning, usually packed full, overflowing during the week, you will find that over 80% of the animals are gone because they want to get to Freiburg. It's always been that way. And so that creates a bit of a problem. We keep 4-H back, first 4-H show in our ring. We try to do other events. And some of these things Freiburg may not be aware of because it just, you know, it was never brought up. We just dealt with it because that's just the way it was. You know, people want to get to Freiburg. It creates, it's scheduling people, trying to keep the polling ring full. We want to have events. Now, my concern is they're open on Saturday. If they have show events for cattle, sheep, goats, we have certain days we do it. But if they decide they want to have an event that Cumberland wants to have, who gets the animals? Most likely to Freiburg. It creates, and that's all across the whole, any entertainment, we share a lot. Cumberland and Freiburg have a lot of things that we share. People come from Cumberland to Freiburg, and that's why I think that when a fair date is awarded, that every situation is different. You can say 60 miles is a long way to go for a fair. My wife and I went to 3 fairs that were anywhere from an hour to an hour and a half away, and we were able to spend the day and have a good time and just to see what these fairs were. We try to do that every year, see 3 new fairs. It's nothing to travel. I have no problem with a fair being able to add a day as long as it doesn't hurt another fair. How can it not hurt Cumberland Fair at some point when you have to schedule events, when you're sharing events, when you're trying to keep people back, and people are going to go when it's convenient for them to go, whether Freiburg says don't come or not. It's just the logistics of people wanting to get to the next place and get settled in. Now, we can play hardball and say, no, you can't leave. You have to wait. Then the people won't come to our fair. They'll just say, you know what? It's too much of a hassle. We try to cooperate with them. We pay a few people to stay back just to keep the stalls filled during that Saturday. When we're moving animals out at peak time on our Saturday afternoon, it's a transition of people. A lot of our people come in for the nighttime events. You have people going out, you have people coming in. They can't get into the cattle area. Normally, I mean, years ago, they would have been able to go around. It would have been till 8 o'clock when everything started to die down. These are things we've done for Freiburg for years, and the people that show at these fairs. I think over time, it's only going to get worse for Cumberland, especially if Freiburg fills its schedule more and more and has events. How do we schedule something when we don't know what Freiburg's going to have on that day, on Saturday? How do we put this into place? We're trying to find answers. Obviously, Freiburg's opening anyway. So we're trying to figure that out, but it's not easy when you're seeing your stalls empty and you're seeing people wanting to leave earlier. We have to weigh whether we come down hard on the people and make them stay, or whether we let them go when it's convenient for them to go. These are the things we face, and it's across the whole fairgrounds. It's the same issue. There are only so many vendors. There are only so many. Cumberland County doesn't have a lot of big farms. We have to reach further and further every year to get animals to our fair. So every time you lose somebody or somebody can't make it because they just have to get there that day before, just so it's easier to fit their schedule, it puts a hardship on Cumberland Fair. Saturday has always been probably one of our more difficult days to acquire events or to hold an event and not worry about being up against Freiburg, because most likely they're going to go to Freiburg because it's just a bigger fair and reach out to more people. It's that aspect of it. You can look at the gate this year. We were down. We did better than we thought we'd do. hope we do better. Trend was upward. That stopped. Who knows? I'm thinking it has something to do with the two fairs opening. Hard to say. But the fact is, the two fairs being open on the same day, it makes it very difficult for Cumberland Fair. And I think it does have an effect on our fair.
You mentioned that, and I think I wrote it down, 80% of the animals have left by Saturday.
Well, just in the Saturday morning, if you go back behind the pulling ring, in the pulling area, that Saturday morning, they're gone. They're up. They trickle out Thursday, anytime from Thursday, Friday to Saturday. And I think Freiburg must see them showing up. And they're typically leaving Cumberland. They have a lot more pullers from other areas that don't come to Cumberland. We have some that come up from Connecticut, from other areas, and a lot of them go right from Cumberland to Freiburg too. Both have big pulling events, and I get it. People want to get out. But it is somewhat manageable if you not open on the same day. It makes it much harder if you are open on the same day.
Understood. And if it's a licensed agricultural fair for which premiums can be paid for livestock events.
Yep.
You're concerned that there would be further competition.
Yeah, originally, this whole thing came about, it was just going to be a carnival day. We weren't going to have animals. We weren't going to have this. And then 2 years later, all of a sudden there are pulling events and show events and such. That was the way it was left when they left our office. We made it plain that we were concerned that this would happen. These things happen. Now, and, you know, it just, I think over time you're going to see, I think 1 year you can't look at it and say for sure that it doesn't affect the Cumberland Fair. I think we've shown that it will affect Cumberland Fair. I think if you looked at it for 3 or 4 years, if it doesn't affect Cumberland Fair, great. But if it does affect Cumberland Fair, how do we recover from that?
Are there any questions for Mr.?
Yes.
I don't know. Do you have any?
I have a
Go
question.
ahead, go ahead.
Thank you.
Can you identify yourself for the record?
Jeannie Andrews with Freiburg. Hi. Thursday was a washout for you folks, which is the rodeo day. Do you know what percentage your attendance was down for Thursday?
A lot. We only had, like, I don't think we had 3,000 people come on for Thursday.
And you,
had the same Thursday the year before.
Yes, yeah,
We had exactly the same Thursday
yeah.
the prior year.
Pretty much a total washout on that Thursday also.
and do you think that your exhibitors would give up 7 days for a few hours leaving early on Saturday? You said if you stick to your guns and say you can't leave until 8 o'clock. Dave Richardson has said that we have encouraged them to stay with you, and I'm sure he'd work with you to do so. Do you really think these exhibitors are going to give up that entire week for an option to leave 2 hours early
Well,
to get to Freiburg?
When you're working with, if you work with pullers, it's pretty hard to tell them when to stay. I mean, we can set rules. But my fear is they're just gonna say it's too much of a hassle getting into Freiburg.
So you think they'll give up 7 days just to leave a couple hours
Well,
early?
it's not so much 7 days, it's, they're only pulling certain days, they're there for certain events.
Right, but we're just talking about pullers. We're not talking about all livestock. I thought
Well,
we were
I'm
talking
talking,
about all livestock.
it can be, the other end of the livestock, most stay as far as show cattle, show sheep, most stay until 5 o'clock on Saturday. I'm talking mainly the pulling animals. It just, when you walk around, if we start having problems with this, how does that look on our evaluation? How does it look? These are things that we face for years and that we're trying to figure out.
So
I
you,
don't know
Sorry.
what the magic answer is. We're trying to figure that out.
Yeah.
Last year was the first year we've experienced this.
do you know Mr. Richardson?
I do not.
Okay,
I've seen him at the
Yeah.
Maine Fair Association.
he's
meeting.
very agreeable, and
Yep.
I'm sure the Saturday events could be discussed
And
between
I
the two
appreciate
fairs.
that. Absolutely. Yep.
Thank you.
But right now, I feel that, I oppose the date. I think in time, let's see what happens. Any other questions? Did you have a question?
No, but, except that, are you suggesting that we continue unlicensed for a few years so that you can see what happens?
No, I wish that you wouldn't, but
Well, then how would the 3 or 4 years make a difference?
because then we can see what the impact is. What's the rush? You're going anyway. Why do you need to be licensed?
You have a bill?
Are you suggesting that we should continue to do what
No.
we're doing now?
No, I'm suggesting that you're gonna do it anyway. If you stop, that would be great. I would be in favor of that. I wish you would. Thank you.
All right, thank you, sir. Ms. Sawyer?
Yeah, hi. Good morning. So my name is Tammy Sawyer. I am a director at Cumberland Farmers Club, and I am the superintendent of the polling department. So first, I just want to back up to a couple of things. There was mention of the Common Ground Fair and how that's overlap. That's a very completely different fair from any other fair in the state of Maine. There's no midway. There's no contest, polling contest or anything. It's strictly demonstrations and creative food vendors. So it's really not something I would compare to a traditional agricultural fair in Maine. It's really unique. Also, just a couple other things, well, one of the things I just remembered being a little down about around this. I mean, overall, none of us like this. We really have worked well with our fairs. I've got family at Freiburg in the polling arena and myself and my poor mom. Everybody's asking her, what do you think between Cumberland and Freiburg? I don't want to talk about it. I got my 2 daughters and my girls are involved. It just is not good. But for me, like driving around the week before the fair in Westbrook, right off the turnpike, and there's this huge Freiburg Fair sign, come to our fair, right in the heart of Cumberland County in Westbrook, Maine, Freiburg Fair. And then waking up that Saturday morning and seeing the social media about slashing the amusement, the carnival ticket prices significantly, come to our fair to celebrate Freiburg's birthday. It's great, but it was like rubbing salt in the wound. Wow. So I just wanted to bring those 2 things up too. That was a little discouraging. But having polling events on their non-licensed day did have some impact to Cumberland, but my bigger concern is once you move forward to having a licensed day, it's going to have a much bigger impact. So today, it impacts us looking at our events on Fridays. Now, people are going to step away from our Friday activity to get to settled in on Freiburg the day before their fair starts. So that's what happens. All of our Teamsters exhibitors, they want to get there the day before the fair starts. They need time to get restocked on groceries, prepared and everything. You've got 3 fairs that are 7 days plus long, back to back with Farmington, and they roll from Farmington to Cumberland, and then they roll from Cumberland to Freiburg. And that's a lot of strain for these exhibitors and Teamsters with that. So what I think is really important is if their Saturday program for polling and beyond is built out, it will have a much greater impact than it did this year to our fair and our Teamsters. And it backs everything up a day. It doesn't matter what day your fair starts. The exhibitors, crafts people, everybody's going to be ready that day before. So that argument I would throw out too. If your fair starts on Friday, everybody's going to be ready to go on Thursday. It just doesn't matter. Everybody's ready the day before. I was at the fair convention last week, Maine Fair, and at the poll commission meeting, and it was interesting when Maine Draft Horse and Ox Club said that they, in their bylaws, they have a line item they just realized where they will not sponsor, host a polling event if it overlaps a fair. So they are changing their date this year and recognizing that they had that conflict before and they do not want that to exist. And that's all to support the Teamsters and the fairs. So bottom line, I think that it's just the full impact will be far greater than it even was this year. This is just the first year. I think we had some potential bump with people that wanted to support us as a result of this. And with polling, I know it will get impacted. It's hard for us to create a program on Saturday because we want to be supportive of our fair patrons that want to see polling activity, but also of our Teamsters that we know they've got to pack up and get to the next fair. And it just backs everything up a day. If Saturday is a licensed day and their polling program is expanded, and then we're gonna have impact on our Friday now. And it's just gonna continue to back up with any overlap. Thank you.
Thank you. Does anyone have any questions?
Yes.
Sorry. So are you saying that Teamsters come in the day before the fair starts or the day before their competitions
To Freiburg?
or any fair?
So it can be both. If it's a long fair, most likely they come in the day before.
The day before the
Yeah,
fair?
so ours at Cumberland, for example, we had Teamsters that were arriving Friday night because we weigh the day before, similar to Freiburg weighs the day before, so people want to get there earlier.
Okay, so you're saying they leave Farmington early to go to Cumberland? And then they leave
So,
Cumberland early to come to Farmington?
Farmington, I know the cattle pulling gets done earlier in the week. That's not an impact. The horses, they pull right up that last day and they're rolling in very late. So they're weighing in first thing the next morning.
I have a follow-up question,
Sure.
just for the record to reflect that was Ms. Andrews asking that question. What type of coordination do you do with other licensed fairs for the scheduling of polling events or the weighing in? Is there any agreement people try and come to schedule those events in a way that
Yeah,
prevents
so,
overlap?
yeah, usually, so there's the two clubs that's have ox and horse pulling, put out programs at the beginning of the year in April. They gather information from all the fairs. But I didn't have any conversations with anybody. No, I wasn't approached about what their program would be until it was public.
Fairly typical. They determine it on their own.
Not when there's overlap. Right, because you usually try to coordinate where your classes don't overlap with each other and stuff. So, all right.
Ms. Andrews?
I'm sorry.
Yes,
Are you familiar with your counterpart at Freiburg?
yes, my sister.
Okay, so there is opportunity for conversation then about it.
Right, but
Okay? So,
I shouldn't have to go
Both ways.
chase it. You are impacting me, so come to me. Thank you.
I believe I'm segueing now to folks on Teams. Ms. Grant, thank you for being patient. Hi there, can you introduce yourself and begin your comments?
Yes, my name is Jen Grant. I am a member of the Cumberland Farmers Club, and I'm also a 4-H leader in Cumberland County. So I spoke with I am the 4-H beef leader in the county. I also spoke with the dairy 4-H leader and the leader for the working steers. Our shows are the most impacted by Freiburg. My show is on Thursday, and I have less than half of my kids in my club come to our show because it's on Thursday and they're making preparations to go to Freiburg. By all means, that is not something that Freiburg is pushing them to do or anything like that. But by nature, you want to get into the fairs, you want to be set up so that the transition coming in is very easy. The dairy and the working steers 4-H shows are all take place on Saturday. So they have had less kids coming because, again, as it's been stated before, a lot of the exhibitors want to be set up on Saturday, ready to go for when the fair starts on Sunday. This past year, we saw maybe a small amount of kids not coming. It didn't change the impact because most of the kids that are coming to our fair are those that come from families that still believe that your county fair means something, and not just running to a bigger fair. My biggest concern is if they open on Saturday, what the requirements then become. I do realize that for us that are exhibiting at Cumberland, we're still able to come in Saturday night as we always have. But are you going to be asking all of your exhibitors that are not at another fair to be there on Saturday, whereas last year it was you just needed to be ready to go for Sunday? So that's a big concern for me because I think that will definitely decrease our numbers. I know this year on Saturday, the working steer leader told me that one of their families received a phone call from somebody in the working steer department at Freiburg asking where they were. And they said, well, we're at Cumberland. We were told we could come to Cumberland and then come to Freiburg afterwards. And that person said, oh, yeah, no problem. I just was checking to see where you were, and then asked about a number of other families that also were at Cumberland Fair. This sort of put a little ripple through this group of, are we not doing what we were supposed to? Are we not going to have a space when we get there? And let's face it, for these kids, Saturday, the day of their show, they should be focused on their show and their showmanship classes and how they're going to do, not focused on, oh my gosh, we're not where we're supposed to be for the next fair. Are we going to have a space? So I'm really disappointed that happened. I just, so I hope that things are very clear for all of us going forward. Sorry, I've lost my track. The youth are really important to everything. Youth are important to keep agriculture going. Youth is important for our fairs, and we need to make sure that youth feel like they can be at any fair that they want to be at. Otherwise, our fairs aren't going to grow. Also in Cumberland County, our Leaders Association works very hard to support our youth. We run a food booth. All the days that the fair is open, serving breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And this supplies our budget to provide our youth with college scholarships, camperships, opportunities to go on a national 4-H trips, and also programming that we may do within the county. While we increased our prices this year, and we did see like an 11% increase in our revenue, that's even with having a rainy day where there was hardly anybody there at the fairgrounds that day. We still actually had an 11% increase. But on Saturday, with decrease in gate attendance, we were down to like I think it was like a 6% increase. So overall, we technically lost money for that day with attendance being down. So I just wanted to share from the 4-H aspect, and we're trying to support these kids and have a big shows and whatnot. And like my 4-H club, my B 4-H club, I have 39 kids in my club, and we had 18 that come and show. So 18 is a good number, sure, but it's a far cry from 39. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Grant. Can you explain a little bit more those numbers that you just shared at the end? Is that 18 out of 39 fairly constant? Was it just a 2025 number? You break that down?
No,
a bit
that's a fairly constant. Because as I said, many of our members forego, because they can come in just for the day. I should make that very clear. They don't have to be at Cumberland Fair for the whole week. They can come in just for the day to show. But because our show is so close to Freiburg, families are not looking to do that. You know, many families are coming in, going to Freiburg on Friday to get their stalls set up so that when they haul their animals in on Saturday, things are set up and ready to go. So nobody wants to come to our fair on Thursday, show your cattle, go home, turn around, pack back up, and go to the fair. And for our kids that are, you know, as I said, I don't have the numbers for the dairy and the working steers, but their programs are very similar to mine in the fact that, you know, more kids go to Freiburg than they do to Cumberland from their clubs.
And what days are these show events typically happening at Cumberland involving these 4-H members?
So the beef show is on Thursday. The working steers and the dairy are on Saturday. Our sheep, our pigs, those shows take place earlier in the week and don't have any impact with Freiburg whatsoever. It's our 4-H shows towards the end of the week.
Thank you for clarifying that for me. Are there any other questions for Ms. Grant? Yes, sir. You introduce yourself.
You indicated that you're a member of the Farmers Club and that the Cumberland Fair revenues, total revenues for the year were up 11%.
No, that's the 4-H.
4-H booths.
Food booths.
So your revenue group were up.
For the year, yes,
So,
but not for the day.
so
Because
the Freiburg,
we increased our prices.
okay. So, but the Freiburg shows are later in the week, aren't they, for 4-H?
Yes.
All but the market animals. Yes.
But nothing has changed in the schedule between the two fairs, has it? Except for so
No.
everything.
But most of my kids in my club have market steers. So they want to get to the fair, get those animals settled in so that they're eating on a good schedule and ready to go for Monday when the shows start, which is with any livestock exhibitor, really.
Were any of those kids required to go to Freiburg earlier because Freiburg was open on Saturday?
No. And I said that too. I said that Freiburg has impacted us over the years just because it's human nature to want to be there and set up and ready to go. I personally go to Cumberland for the whole week. I pack up late Saturday. I drive to Freiburg and get set back up again. It's very stressful, but we do it because I enjoy going to both fairs. But there are families that choose not to have to do that.
Well, what impact did the Saturday opening have on the schedule if it's exactly the same as it's always been?
Then you're going to have, my understanding was there were events taking place, especially in the pulling and whatnot. And we had families, especially in our working steer program, that had conflicts that day.
There was nothing.
Did you know that Freiburg did not have any livestock competitions on Saturday?
I just know what I was told, that's all.
Thank you, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hastings. Other questions? Yes.
Sorry, Jean Andrews, Freiburg. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, I can.
So you said that youth are very important and they should show at any show that any fair that they want to. Does Cumberland allow youth from other counties to compete?
If they belong to a Cumberland County 4-H club, yes.
Okay. And does the Big E impact you at all?
Yes, it does. And it especially impacts my beef program because the 4-H beef kids are at Eastern States at the beginning of Cumberland Fair. That limits then our kids, it makes it a little bit harder because they get back from Eastern States Monday night and our steers and our lambs show for market, our market steers and our market lambs show on Tuesday morning. And if a youth was involved in the swine shows Monday night. And so then they have to make decisions as to whether they're going to go to Eastern States or stay at Cumberland and have a market hog.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Grant.
Thank you.
Ms. Gagnon? Gagnon, excuse me.
Hi. Good afternoon, I think, by now. My name is Judy Gagnon. I'm a member of the Cumberland Farmers Club, and I work in the exhibition hall and information booth during the Cumberland Fair. I'm here today to respectfully ask you to deny Freiburg Fair's application to extend its licensed fair dates to begin on Saturday, the traditional final day of the Cumberland Fair. As you have already heard from other club members, Freiburg Fair's early opening in 2025 had direct negative impacts on Cumberland Fair. Freiburg is only about an hour away, and we clearly share many of the same exhibitors, vendors, entertainers, and most importantly, the patrons. When one fair opens early without authorization, it does not operate in isolation. It affects neighboring fairs across the region. That unlicensed opening also sets a poor example for other main agricultural fairs. For generations, fairs in this state have operated with a spirit of cooperation, education, and mutual support. Freiburg's actions undermine those traditions and create a damaging precedent where fairs act solely in their own financial interests. While the impacts to the exhibition hall department are more difficult to quantify than gate or vendor losses, they are very real. In 2025, we had only 7 giant pumpkin and squash competitors, and 1 exhibitor removed their entry early to compete at Freiburg. This left a noticeable gap in an otherwise strong educational agricultural display, one that fairgoers expect and value. That experience represents one of the many ways Cumberland was negatively affected. All of this is true, all of it's real, and personally, it saddens me that we're even here. Everyone has worked with the established guidelines for forever and a day, and I would sincerely like to see it continue that way. In closing, I respectfully urge you to deny Freiburg Fair's application. Actions that disregard the established process should not be rewarded. Maine's agricultural fairs deserve decisions that support both longstanding traditions and a fair, cooperative path forward. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you for your testimony. Just wanted to learn a little bit more about the description you just made about the squash and pumpkin display. You said 7 competitors total. How many do you have on average, typical year?
That's a good question. I believe more in the teens. I would say 15 to 17.
15 to 17 normally. You had
Yeah.
7 last year.
Yeah.
And tell me more about the one competitor that withdrew, or how did that happen?
Well, that happened because I believe, and someone else might be able to help me with this, but as I recall, we went out there and it was gone the next morning, Saturday morning. So somehow it got taken overnight.
Did you ever follow up with that exhibitor as?
I did not personally. I'm sure somebody did, but I did not personally.
Thank you. I'll get to you in a moment about that. Any questions for Ms. Gagnon?
I guess I have one question, if I could.
Yeah, Mr. Hastings and Ms. Andrews.
Thank you. So do you know that those 7 pumpkins went to Freiburg?
No, one
Because
went.
we generally only have about 4.
One went that we know of.
One left.
One
Not
left.
seven.
One left.
One
a
left
day
to go to
early.
Freiburg.
Yeah,
The other
one
7
left.
went someplace else?
I don't know
No,
where.
only one was taken. Only one
Right.
pumpkin was taken.
The
Sorry.
end of the fair.
One pumpkin went to Freiburg.
Yes.
That's what Ms. Gagnon just testified. to.
Okay, I was unclear about that.
Andrews?
Thank you. When was this pumpkin missing?
I don't really know when it left, but it was not there on Saturday for the last day of our fair.
Okay, because
So
our
sometime Friday night.
Friday night, our entries needed to be in on Friday. And you're certain this pumpkin showed up at Freiburg?
Yes.
Yes.
Has Cumberland always shown 7, 8 days since its inception?
7,
It's always been 7 days?
that's correct. Well, actually, no, we were 4 in
Okay.
the 1800s,
So you changed it to
from
7?
the 1800s.
Yes.
Just gonna,
I can answer the pumpkin question.
Do you need me to turn it up at all?
I can hear that. Okay, thank you. All right, I'm just going to reflect for the record that Ms. Tarantino offered the perspective of the days of showing. And to resolve the questions with respect to these pumpkins, I'll recognize Mr.
I was there. I had a member come to me and that there was a trailer backed up to the pumpkin. It was Friday. And the gentleman had stated that he needed to get the pumpkin to show it at Freiburg. And we, in our rules, we say, once the pumpkins are there, they must stay there for the remainder of the fair. By the time we got there, he had already gotten in to the fence, taken the pumpkin out and gone. And he said it's because he needed to get it to Freiburg to show for the Freiburg Fair.
and Ms. Andrews, I'm just going to turn to you. Can you repeat when folks are supposed to arrive for that competition?
On Friday.
Did that, resolves that curiosity. Any other questions for Ms. Gagnon? Okay, at this point in time, I have gone through my list of the intervening parties. I am opening it up now to take public comment. It's just open to whomever who would like to make a comment. You're welcome to come up to the podium here, introduce yourself for the record, and give your comments. Again, focusing on the Rule Chapter 11 types of comments that you might have. With that, I'll just open it up. You will have an opportunity to.
How do I put rebuttal stuff in?
I'll allow both parties to have closing statements, at which point you can make closing arguments to that effect. Is there anyone in the room here today who would like to make a statement? Yes, sir.
You want me at the podium?
Yeah, just.
Dave Andrews from Freiburg Fair. I'm just listening to the comments that Cumberland was down. So, and I usually wear a Freiburg Fair shirt, much like you guys do with Cumberland Fair, and I spent some time in Southern Maine this past summer, and I got asked a lot of questions about Freiburg running with Cumberland. I talked to a few people, they say they went to both. And they didn't really like the way that Cumberland was portraying Freiburg on the news, And I'm just thinking, until she said they were down 800, I'm like, that could have had some impact on their attendance, the way they were on the news and publicizing that. So I just wanted to point that out. And for the week of the Freiburg Fair, we were only up 142 people or so for the whole week. So we weren't, this extra day didn't affect our total attendance very much, So Saturday was up, but for the whole week, we were just about 142 people. So
you're saying with an extra day, you still had the same attendance as if you were
approximately.
day less?
And it made it more comfortable for the people coming to the fair. It made the traffic a lot better. But we didn't take a whole bunch of people and increase our attendance for the week, So that's something that wasn't really mentioned. Thank you.
Folks wanting to comment? Yes, sir, come on up.
Hello, my name's Blaine Moon. I'm a member of the Cumberland Farmers Club. I've exhibited at many fairs over the years when I was a lot younger. Nowadays, we go to 3 fairs, Cumberland, Freiburg, Windsor, just because, we all have, my family and I have full-time jobs. And we've always done the transaction and stuff, but Freiburg's has always affected the livestock and people because everybody says, oh, my kids can only take this much time off. And a lot of our exhibitors go to Freiburg for the week. These 4-H kids' parents, they take their kids out to go to Freiburg for the week instead of going to Cumberland. Okay, that's always been going on. And we are compared to Freiburg, Cumberland is a very small fair as far as animal numbers. When you talk about having 300 and something thousand income on your Saturday, I believe that, I don't know the numbers, but that's about what Cumberland makes for the whole week off in ticket sales. So that's quite a difference. And it just seems like the Giants trying to get bigger and squash the rest of us down, in my opinion. I mean, I greatly enjoy going to Freiburg. We have a good time. We see a lot of people. That's what we go for, part of it, show our cows and see people and see friends that you've made over the years, but it still makes it difficult. And I've done the transaction I've gotten a lot smarter in my older age because I do go to Freiburg because I have the time and set up during the week so that when we get there Saturday night, we get the animals in and, they're basically ready to be settled in instead of showing up. I've been past years, I've showed up at night with a load of cows, a load of tack, and had to set everything up. Even when we were getting out of Cumberland at 8 o'clock at night, we'd be up till 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, getting stuff set up, make sure they're all ready. And it's a long week already. So when you add another day, not that it's going to affect me because I'm going to be at Cumberland and I will come to Freiburg, but that's my take of it. Thank you.
Hi, Barbara Gushy, Freiburg Fair, longtime exhibitor of all fairs in the state of Maine, my whole entire life. I will tell you, and I'm looking at all fairs, I have done the route from Bangor Fair all the way to Freiburg growing up. We went from fair to fair to fair. We're all fair family. I look out here, I've competed with all these people. We're not here to hurt anybody. We're here to make it better. When they sit here and tell us we do these things that we're not doing, we're not here to hurt you, we're here to help you. If they needed something, Freiburg Fair would be there to help them. We've helped a lot of Maine fairs. I've shown all over the country. I've come out of Keystone into Freiburg on Monday, showed in Keystone Sunday, been released, been into Freiburg to show that week. Been at Eastern States. Cumberland Fair is closed to their county. Not all exhibitors can go to Cumberland Fair. So when you close your fair to county, you can't have more exhibitors. So they have to look at that too. If they open their fair statewide, they may have more people. Pulling, our pullers come from all over the state. Oxen, horse, working steers. They come from everywhere. So we're not here to hurt you guys.
I have my James Cox, member of Cumberland County Fair.
Sir, can you come on
Why
up
did
just
you
so
go
folks?
Saturday instead of Monday? You wouldn't have impacted anybody. Nobody at all.
We would have impacted sandwich fare on certain years.
In New Hampshire.
So
I'm sorry, I missed your name, sir. What was that? What was your name?
James Hawks.
James Hawks. Okay, thank you. Just folks online can't see,
No, sorry.
so that's why. All right, thank you. Yes, sir.
Bill Webster, Board of Directors, Cumberland Fair. I've shown for 52 years at all these fairs, from one end of the state to the other end of the state, from one end of the country to the other end of the country. And my wife, I wrote it, but my wife did write it. I signed it. And if you guys read it, we all grew up as a family. I mean, my brother met his wife at the fairs. How many people have met their wives at the different fairs from different things? I know all you guys, I've shown you. We've socialized together over coffee in the mornings. My whole thing is, I just don't think it's right. I mean, we got along all these years. Why all of a sudden does it have to happen? Is it about greed? Is it about money? What is it about? I mean, why? That's my only question. And I thank you guys for listening to me, because I always can't keep my mouth shut no matter where I go. I always gotta talk, but well, that's life. Thank you, guys. Thank you, guys.
Else? Anyone online? Right, not seeing any other hands being raised. I'm gonna close the hearing to, public comment.
One comment in the chat. I can't see it from here, but.
All right, Jeffrey LePage stated an hour ago, if one of the reasons for opening Freiburg early is that the vendors are already on the grounds, what prevents Freiburg from opening earlier in years to come because vendors are already there, i.e. inch up and engulf the dates of the Cumberland Fair? All right, read that into the record. With that, the public comment portion of the hearing is closed. I do want to invite the parties to make closing statements. And so, Mr. Hastings, this is your time to be able to say what you would like, to summarize your position and answer any statements that you'd like. I do have a question for you. However, and I don't believe it was made in your statement earlier. If licensed for this additional date, is there the intention of having livestock events occur on the Saturday that you are licensed?
Oh, no. I think we would agree that I think we could agree that any license could be conditioned on us not having any livestock competitions. We don't intend to do that. We did do 2 pulling events later in the afternoon. When understanding that Cumberland does not pull on Saturday afternoon. I think we would be perfectly happy to have that as they want to pull all day Saturday, they can pull all day Saturday if they wish to. That could be made a condition.
Thank you for answering my question. Please come on up and provide your closing statement.
Thank you. So one of the arguments being made, not so much factual, but it's not really fact, but it's the way we've always done it. You know, saying that it's always been done that way is not always the right route to take. As I mentioned, there are 3 fairs in a row that sit with a unused Saturday. with their midway set up, their vendors in place, but they don't operate. We can't control in any way what those other fairs want to do with those opening days. But I think we have to look at this with a fresh set of eyes. Many of the complaints are just that. We've always done it that way. But we have to focus on facts. First, a lot of talk about all the lost vendors. But we are not given a list. If you ask me, the commissioner should give that, if they're not willing to disclose who they are, but just say they lost a lot of them. Freiburg, when we're coming here telling you that we don't know who they are, we don't think we've found them, I would hope that the commissioner would give very little weight to that. That's not a fact. We've got a list, but we won't show it to you. How can we even dispute that? Revenue? Yes, their attendance and revenue was down slightly. But still, I think it's the second best revenue day, Saturday they've had in 7 or 8 years. We have down days and up days ourselves, just like everybody else. Purveyors, that really surprised us, and I will supply this in the future. We did check with the purveyors last spring to make sure this would not be a problem. They spoke of Pepsi, and I will forward this. I only have it on my phone right now. We were sent an email from Pepsi after inquiring, and this was their answer. In addition to the beloved Freiburg Fair, Pepsi proudly supports numerous fairs across the state, providing essential goods and services. While some events may overlap, rest assured that our dedicated Pepsi team is fully prepared to uphold the exceptional service standards you have come to expect, both this season and beyond. We are scheduled to be there all 9 days to support our vendors during the event. They did not indicate there was any problem with doing another Cumberland Fair. Now, if I can figure out how to do this. This is an email from the Michelle Pelletier, President of Performance Food Services. I think that's the PGF or PFG or whatever it is they're talking about. From Michelle. We look forward to another successful season with you and your team. As I mentioned in our meeting, we can come to the fair a day early to accommodate your change in scheduling. And in doing so, we will not take away any resources from the Cumberland Fair. I think that's, and the third purveyor they mentioned is not even serving Freiburg. Fortunately for us, our business summer season is wrapping up late in September, early October, and we'll have both the staff and trailers to make sure both fairs are serviced to normal expectations, even if there's an overlap. And we will forward those to you.
I'm just going to interrupt you for one moment. Please do, since you've entered them into the record, I would like to see a copy of that when we receive it, hopefully later, well, when we receive it, and I ask that you try and send it to us, to Kayla's attention, after this hearing, we will be sure to provide a copy to the interveners. Thank you.
I could forward your email now.
Sorry, no.
It might take me half an hour to do it.
Do that, thank you.
Well, that's what I have. And we've had so much talk about livestock. And what you have heard is that absolutely nothing has changed with respect to livestock from previous years. Livestock has always been released from Cumberland sometime at the late Saturday afternoon or early evening and come to Freiburg. Same thing will happen now, happened this year, it will happen in the future. And if you could make that a condition of it too, that we accommodate, it's not just Cumberland that we're accommodating. Deerfield is a good fair in New Hampshire. They send stuff to us. I don't know, it may be other fairs. This is not just a livestock issue. We've always accommodated livestock to come in after their prior fair enters. We've continued to do that. We've made it clear that there is no ramifications for staying to Cumberland to the end or any other fair, that you would make your reservations in the normal course as you always have done to come in late. No ramifications with respect to stall space or trailers. Nothing has changed with respect to livestock. With us operating on this additional day. We have not affected them midway as far as we can tell. The only thing they've suggested are vendors. We think their midway operator is doing fine. There is no evidence that it isn't. If there's only very minimal consequences between this date, the real benefit is to the public to be able to attend, have a choice of fairs. If they're both doing well, why isn't that what we want? We want as many fair dates as we can accommodate. Like we say, we're no closer to Cumberland than Farmington is to Common Ground Fair. You can say they're different fair, they're slightly different, but they're attracting fairgoers and they're doing educational, agricultural education. The more of those dates we can have, the better. I can't speak for anyone that doesn't, but tell me, everybody would agree that their fairs are fully set up essentially on Saturday morning. But they sit there dark. How does that make real long range sense? Those fairs should be open. That's when the public can come to fairs. Saturday. What it does for us, for many things, it's really accommodated to the public because it spread the crowd out. Also providing rain insurance. Our vendors, our local vendors, most of which are local folks in the area, are given another day to make $1. Why isn't that? Why shouldn't that be encouraged? Look, the most I've heard is that they're slightly down in attendance. You know, Midway apparently did well. We did not steal their Midway, and there's no evidence we did. There are statements that we did. We told you they didn't come to Freiburg. They won't tell you who they are. I don't think that should even be considered a fact. But anyway, I would hope that, and I've also heard that maybe if we did this for 3 or 4 years, we'd get more information. Well, I don't know how we can do it. We can do it unlicensed if that's what everybody wants us to do. It does cost us some premiums, stipend premium. We gave that up knowing full well we weren't going to be able to submit our premiums from our exhibition hall and from any events we had on Saturday. There's legislation in right now that would prevent that. We're kind of stuck between a rock and a hard place. How do we develop facts if we don't do it? So I hope you would can see that any impact on Cumberland Fair is minimal, far outweighed on the impact and the benefit to the public, to vendors, and to Freiburg's Fair for its opening 50 miles away on the same day. Thank you.
Thank you. Who would like to give a closing statement?
Yep. So Tarantino. So Mr. Hastings has repeatedly said it was a minor impact on Cumberland Fair. 800 paid adult attendees is not a minor impact on Cumberland Fair. $12,000 in attendance to Cumberland Fair is a significant loss. It is a significant loss. We don't make $300,000 in a day in attendance, not ever. Saturday is our highest day, and as you can see from the numbers I gave you, 100,000.
Ms. Tarantino, would you address me?
I apologize. 100,000 is the numbers that we're looking at. So it is a significant amount when in losing 800. And when we think about 800 paid adults, those adults very likely have 12 and under children with them. So that number is doubled or even tripled of how many people are not at the fair on that day. And those numbers are what impact our vendors, our, it certainly would impact the Midway as well, the revenue across the board for our nonprofit organizations that rely on this for their fundraising. So it's rather dismissive of Freiburg to say that it's an insignificant loss. It is a very significant loss when you look at our numbers across the board. You asked for facts, and we have provided facts throughout this as to what happened when Freiburg opened unlicensed last year and how it impacted the Cumberland Fair. So again, I would reiterate that I do formally oppose Freiburg Fair's request, and I do hope that you will deny their request and uphold the integrity of this process. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone, for your time and attention today. The commissioner will deliberate on this hearing following a public comment period, which is still open. Closes on February 9th, 2026 at noon. Written public comments may be submitted to the department. During the deliberations, no further evidence or arguments may be taken, meaning post February 9th. And the deliberations will commence by the commissioner. She will prepare a written decision of her deliberations on or before February 20th, 2026. Again, thank you for your time and perspective today. This hearing is now closed.